Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of Second Take Cinema, coming at you from the glorious Impala Films headquarters in sunny Southend-on-Sea, or maybe that should be chilly Southend-on-Sea, in honour of the new release of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Today, myself and Rory Jocelyn are travelling back to 1984 to give a second take to the original Ghostbusters. That's right, today we are talking about the original Ghostbusters, a comedy classic if ever there was one. This movie was released in 1984, directed and produced by Ivan Reitman, written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, also starring Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. It also stars Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis and Annie Potts, Ernie Hudson and William Atherton in a supporting role. The film was made for a budget of $30 million and grossed a whopping $295.2 million. Ghostbusters opened to generally positive reviews, with Roger Ebert giving it 3.5 out of 4 stars, citing it as a rare example of successfully combining a special effects-driven blockbuster with sly dialogue. Ebert noted the effects existed to serve the actors' performances and not the reverse, saying it is an exception to the general rule that big special effects can wreck a comedy. He also cited Ghostbusters as a rare mainstream film with many quotable lines. Writing for Newsday, Joseph Gelmis described the Ghostbusters as an adolescent fantasy, comparing their firehouse base to the Batcave with a fireman's pole and an ectomobile on the ground floor. Deseret News' Christopher Hicks praised Reitman's improved directing skills and the crew for avoiding the vulgarity found in their previous film, Caddyshack and Stripes.
Nice.
He felt they reached for more creative humour and genuine thrills instead. He complained about the finale, claiming it lost its sense of fun and was overblown, but found the film compensated for this since it has ghosts like you've never seen.
Sorry. He thought it lost its sense of fun. They fight a marshmallow man.
I know. Janet Maslin agreed that the apocalyptic finale was out of hand, saying Ghostbusters worked best during the smaller ghost-catching scenes. Dave Kerr wrote that Reitman is adept at improvisational comedy, but lost control of the film as the special effects gradually escalated. Arthur Knight appreciated the relaxed style of comedy, saying while the plot is primitive, it has far more style and finesse than would be expected of the creative team behind Meatballs and Animal House. He singled out editors Sheldon Kahn and David Blewett for creating a sustained pace of comedy and action. Despite bathroom humour and tacky sight gags, Peter Travers described Ghostbusters favourably as irresistible nonsense, comparing it to the supernatural horror film The Exorcist, but with the comedy duo of Abbott and Costello starring. Times Richard Schickel described the special effects as somewhat tacky, but believed this was a deliberate commentary on other ghost films. Ultimately, he believed praise was due to all involved for thinking on a grandly comic scale. Reviewers were consistent in their praise for Murray's performance, with Gene Siskel wrote that Murray's comedic sensibilities compensated for the boring special effects. Variety singled out Murray for his endearing physical comedy and ad-libbing. Hicks similarly praised Murray, saying he has never been better than he is here. Schickel considered Murray's character a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to develop fully his patented comic character. Gelmis appreciated Murray's dismissal of the serious situations to keep them comedic. Ghostbusters was nominated for 2 Academy Awards in 1985, including Best Original Song And it's obviously gone on to have quite the legacy, including sequels, spin-off TV series, comic books, video games, toy lines.
The lot, yeah. It was
usual guff that you get.
Considering all the bullshattery that people were saying about the film, all the negatives, this was a phenomenon when it came
Highest
out.
grossing film the year it came out.
Yeah, understandably so.
Not deserved. But
well, I mean, you can argue that, but
I can argue it from a personal point of view. I'm wrong, obviously, but I'm wrong because for me, the highest grossing film of '84 should have been A Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, it isn't. Of course, it's not. Terminator. Terminator should have scored high, but Terminator didn't even crack the top 10.
Wasn't Terminator 83?
No, 84. It was 84, same year as Elm Street.
You got to remember the budgetary difference between them.
It is hilarious. Terminator 1 didn't even crack the top 10. I would be willing to bet dollars to donuts that Terminator 2 was probably the highest grossing film the year it came out.
Yeah.
91, I bet. Or possibly Silence of the Lambs.
There is a difference, though, because I'm sorry to tell you, Jamie, but you're already aware of this. Nightmare on Elm Street and The Terminator
don't have mass market appeal.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not that they don't have mass market appeal per se. Obviously, I think Terminator probably is a bit more, but even then, it was... The first one was more of a horror.
Because it's more of a horror, and that's exactly why.
They got most of their fame and popularity in the home video market.
Yeah.
So they...
They
were never going to top Ghostbusters.
Yeah, they should have done, though, because this film's garbage. I'm kidding. It's not garbage. But what I'm kidding. Calm down! Jesus Christ, nerds! But what I do want to say is what I find hilarious is they made an entire franchise off of a franchise that only has one good film in it. Everything that has followed Ghostbusters has been garbage.
Ghostbusters TV shows was good. The real Ghostbusters was pretty good.
I've not seen that since I was a kid, so fair enough. I'll allow it.
Okay.
Ghostbusters 2, bad. Ghostbusters 2016, bad. Ghostbusters Afterlife, bad.
I don't know. Ghostbusters Afterlife is not great, but I think it's good. It could have been a lot better, but it was better. It certainly wasn't as bad as 2016.
No. Fair play. Anyway, before we start talking about this delightful movie, it's time for the quiz. Okay, Rory, we've got some questions here, 10 questions related to Ghostbusters. It's relatively easy.
Okay, this is where I get 1 out of 10.
Question numero uno.
Yep.
Director Ivan Reitman directed which 2001 sci-fi comedy that you might call Ghostbusters with aliens?
You know what's annoying? I really think I should know this. I feel like this is one that is on the fucking tip of my brain. Oh, shit. I don't... Oh, it's not in my brain. No, I can't think of it, man.
Evolution.
Oh, I knew it. I know that film. Oh. I knew I was going to kick myself not knowing that one.
So this was the highest grossing film of 1984. The second highest grossing film of 1984 was also a comedy.
Interesting.
What film was it?
Oh, was it Beverly Hills Cop?
It was Beverly Hills
Yes!
Cop. Question 3.
Yes.
Which actor was considered for the role of Egon Spengler prior to Harold Ramis being cast, who would later go on to star in their own sci-fi comedy trilogy?
Michael J. Fox? No.
Christopher Lloyd. You were so close.
I got the right franchise. Give it to me, Jamie. Just 0.5?
Nope.
No, half point?
Also considered was Christopher Walken. Question 4. Rick Moranis and Bill Murray would work together again in what musical horror comedy?
Little Shop of Horrors.
Correct. Obviously, Rick Moranis is like the main guy.
Yes.
And
I actually didn't know Bill Murray was in it because I haven't seen it yet.
It's a very small role. It's basically a cameo.
Yeah, that's all Bill Murray does. Unless he's the star, he's just a cameo.
Yeah, he is the patient of Steve Martin's dentist character.
Oh, interesting.
Question 5. In the Legacy sequel, Ghostbusters Afterlife,
Oh, okay.
Egon's grandchildren are played by McKenna Grace and which Stranger Things star?
The problem is I don't know the names of the Stranger Kids actors because I haven't watched
Stranger
Things.
Kids? Fucking hell.
I don't know the actors' names.
No, but you just said Stranger Kids, not Stranger Things.
They are Stranger.
That's a different
They're Stranger
show.
Kids to me. I've never met them.
It may be the most badass name any Hollywood actor has ever had.
I'm not going to guess it because I don't fucking know anyone in Stranger Things.
Finn Wolfhard. Question 6. Real easy one. Real easy. Who sings the theme song Ghostbusters?
All the names in the universe have gone out of my head, and I know who it is. Just put me out of my misery, man. I know it, and it's just not in my brain right now, and I'm going to kill myself.
Ray Parker Jr.
Fucking know it.
Another sequel question.
Go on.
Name the villain from Ghostbusters 2.
Oh, that's Vigo.
I need his full name.
Oh,
Come on.
piss off.
Come on, you can't just call me Vigo.
Vigo the Destroyer,
That could be
isn't it?
Viggo Mortensen. It's not Destroyer. It's...
Carpathian. Vigo the Carpathian.
I'll allow it. Who directed Ghostbusters 2016? They also directed Last Christmas, I Gave You My Heart, but the very next day. Same director who did Ghostbusters 2016.
Isn't this the woman who did the...
It's not a woman, so you're already in the wrong thing.
No, it's not, is it? It's Paul Feig.
Shouldn't have told you that. It is Paul Feig. Ivan Reitman made 3 comedies with which action star?
Jackie Chan?
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Twins, Junior, and Kindergarten Cop.
You did I didn't realise he did Twins and Junior. Okay, no, fair enough. I knew he did Kindergarten Cop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final question. In this film, they mention Ivo Shandor, who built the big building that Goes to the Gozerian comes out of.
Yep.
In the film Ghostbusters Afterlife, Ivo Shandor actually appears.
Yes.
Which actor played them?
They're a corpse, aren't they?
And it's a famous actor that plays that corpse.
Really?
It is.
I thought it was a prop.
Nope, it's a very famous actor.
Oh, shit.
Because the corpse does come to life for a little bit.
That's gone out of my brain. I thought he was just a corpse. Okay. Can I get one clue?
No. Because
Are they young or are they old?
I'm not telling you. The only clue I would give you would give it away.
Are they young or are they old? That's all I want to know.
You've seen the film.
Yeah, but
You
I
can
can't
picture
remember
them.
them.
Well, that's
a
your
prop.
fault.
Oh. Not Ricardo Montalban. I'm just sitting there going, just pick a name. But then I'm like, he's dead. It wouldn't be. Though technically it would have fit the theme.
Yeah. Bring me pictures of Spider-Man. It's J.K. Simmons.
Is it?
It's J.K. Simmons plays Ivo Shandor in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Do not recall him in the film at this point.
I remember seeing him as the corpse. You see him as a corpse
Yeah.
first. I remember sitting there going, well, that corpse is coming to life. Because there is no fucking way they got J. Jonah Jameson
to just
to
be
literally be a corpse. Kind of spoilt the film because I was a bit like, well, I know he's coming to life. I was surprised how quickly he only comes to life for about a minute of screen time, maybe.
Right.
And then they kill him off again. But yeah, it's J.K. Simmons. Anyway, Rory, well done. You scored 4 out of 10 on that quiz.
Fucking hell. And the thing is, it still wouldn't have been enough, but I should have had 6.
The Ray Parker question.
Yeah, my brain has failed me catastrophically on this one.
And you're not the one who's had a bottle of whiskey today.
No, but I am an idiot.
I ain't going to disagree with that. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after these commercials. Okay, so Ghostbusters from 1984. Neither of us put this one in. This one is in because we wanted to, full disclosure, we wanted to tie in with the new release to see if it would get us some attention. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're trying to make the show popular. But I am glad we've done Ghostbusters because it's not that I don't like Ghostbusters. I do like Ghostbusters. I just don't think it's as good as other people think it is.
Well, clearly,
and I don't quite understand why it launched a massive franchise. Like, I get why the first one did, because the first one was the highest grossing film of the year it came out. So I get why we got Ghostbusters 2. Ghostbusters 2 should have been the end of it.
Well, they were trying to make Ghostbusters 3 for a long time.
I know, they ended up doing it in video game form, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your experience with Ghostbusters, Rostifer?
Well, I was born in 1986. Ghostbusters was already a full-fledged phenomenon by the time I was born, and it was very popular and very much one of my favourite things growing up. One of the things that I love about it, which is something I still love in life to this day, is gadgets. Tech, gadgets, things like that. There's not really many franchises that are kid-accessible that are about gadgets. Bond, potentially, but most of those are like cars with rockets that blow people up.
I would like to direct your attention to a certain man named Inspector Gadget.
Doesn't count because they're all built into him. Yeah.
His name's Inspector Gadget! So, funnily enough, I don't know about you, but I actually saw the animated show first.
I can't remember which I saw first because I was far too young. Right. Because I basically grew up with all of it. I had toys. I had the Ghostbusters firehouse, which was covered in slime.
Was that part of the toy, or were you just excited to get it?
I was very excited to get this toy. I had the Ecto-1 because I fucking love the Ecto-1. It was my favourite vehicle for a little while as a kid. Yeah, which is ironic because you wrote it into my character of Preston, not knowing any of that.
See, I can beat you on that. I had a toy car from a popular movie franchise when I was a kid too.
You had the one from Evil Dead?
I had the Batmobile.
Oh, Batmobile's cool. Which one?
The Tim Burton Batmobile.
Ah, nice.
With the little spikes that could come out the wheels.
Nice. Yeah. But again, like, the difference with Ghostbusters stuff as well, though, was a lot of the sort of gadgets that, kids' toys and kids' superheroes had were weaponry. So Batman, obviously, you had like a car that had spikes come out the wheel to attack things,
batarangs,
etc. James Bond, all of his gadgets are like guns and secret
laser pens, explosive pens, etc.
Ghostbusters wasn't to harm anyone. Like, technically, you could make a statement, make a comment about them, attacking ghosts, but
and having nuclear reactors on their back. But I get what you mean.
But the idea is that it's all these little gadgets where you can just do shit with them. And as a kid, when you're playing, it's really cool. You're not actually going, right, I'm going to fucking batter this guy to death with my atomic hammer. You're like, no, I'm going to throw this trap and we work together to capture this imaginary ghost, right?
For anyone who doesn't know, the rough plot of this film is there are initially 3, eventually 4 Ghostbusters who are scientists who lecture at a university. They've got some sort of grant to research the paranormal. And they've basically squandered this grant. They've, not really achieved anything. Right near the start of the film, they actually witnessed their first actual, real, ghostly manifestation. But it's not enough to stop the uni from deciding that they've had quite enough of funding this bullshit department and shit-canning them. This prompts the Ghostbusters to go into business for themselves, adopt the name Ghostbusters. They rent out they get a loan from the bank and rent out the firehouse that becomes their famous headquarters, and they buy the Ecto-1, which I believe is an old ambulance, isn't it? An old school ambulance.
I think it is, yeah. They replace it in the 2016 one with a hearse.
One day, Dana comes to the building, played by Sigourney Weaver, and is like, hey, there's a demon in my fridge. I opened the fridge, there was a demon, and the demon said, Zool. And they're like, Zool, eh? They decide to try and help her, mainly because Peter Venkman, played by Bill Murray, wants to bone.
Yep.
And we kind of go from there. A mystery unfolds, and we journey with the Ghostbusters as they start to become more and more successful. Then they meet the human villain in this film is from the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah, which I'm not sure if that's a statement or not. It's kind of weird.
Back then, obviously, conservative America. This is the Reagan administration. But it's funny because aren't the EPA also the villains in the Simpsons movie, if I'm remembering right?
I haven't seen the Simpsons movie.
I'm
so I don't
fairly
know.
certain the villains in the Simpsons movie are the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah.
Imagine doing a film now in 2024 and saying environmentalists are the bad guys.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's such a. It feels kind of weirdly out of place as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like with modern society. But then again, it wasn't made in modern society,
No.
so it's what you expect. I do like the fact that it's William Atherton playing this role.
Yes.
Because he plays a jerk in this, and more probably as famous, if not more famously, depending on your age. He was also the jerk asshole in Die Hard and Die Hard 2. Actually, he returns in Die Hard 2, playing the same role. He's a journalist who basically almost gets John McClane's family killed because he basically sniffs out a story and screws them all over, and he doesn't care. Gets punched in the face in the end. But yeah, he plays a similar role. He's just an asshole.
Yeah.
And from all accounts that I've ever heard, William Atherton's actually a nice guy.
They
But
always are.
in this film, there's a bit where Bill Murray says, yes, it's true, this man has no dick. According to William Atherton, after that film, because it was so popular with kids, he used to go anywhere. He said there was times where he'd be like he'd be in traffic, and there'd be a school bus, and all the school bus would notice who he is, and then just shout at him that he has no dick.
Typical.
And it's like, he said it kind of half ruined my life a bit because everyone's just started telling me I had no dick. It's like, those poor bastards.
Yeah.
He's playing a role.
Basically, their investigation leads them to this prophecy about Zor and gatekeepers and Ivo Shandor and Gozer the Gozerian.
Yeah.
You probably already know this because this film's so deeply entrenched in pop culture. But
Yeah, this is definitely not one of our indie ones.
no, this is a very well-known film. So let's talk a little bit about tone. Because one thing this film does right, in my opinion, Ghostbusters is a very good and one of the most often cited examples I hear of a film people show their kids when they want to get their kids into horror. This is like the gateway film.
It's a gateway drug.
Yeah. And for a lot of people it is. I know a lot of people who saw Ghostbusters and then that eventually led them into watching things like Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Saw, etc.
I hope they didn't jump straight from Ghostbusters to Saw. Well, little Timmy, now you've finished that film.
I think the film mostly nails its tone quite well.
Yes.
The monsters... The ghosts and monsters don't look stupid and are treated with the right
balance?
reverence doesn't sound like the right word, but do you know what I'm trying to say?
They're given a balance of they are cartoony, but they're not
Treated
so
like jokes.
Yeah.
They're threatening. You believe they could hurt the Ghostbusters if they needed to.
Yeah. So there's this gentle line it tries to cover, whereas... I don't know if you've seen the 2016 one.
I have not.
Right, the 2016 one, the ghosts, when it gets to the point where, you know, all the ghosts are starting to run over the town, they're kind of... Basically, they are so stereotype in design and almost not ghosts. There's one that's is like a giant circus ringmaster. Like, things like that, but they're not even see-through. They're just kind of like shiny CGI abominations. But they all look like something. It's like, oh, well, this is clearly like a human who used to be a ringside guy, and this is someone who's... But they're all done over cartoony and really, really silly. Whereas in this, they are a little silly to go with the tone. But, as you say, they don't go so far into... And it also helps as well, they're a bit vague. Like, Slimer is meant to be based on John Belushi, but it still looks like its own entity. It's not... They haven't just done they haven't just fucking Jedi ghosted a videotape of John Belushi sitting there going, I want some food. You know, it's like they've created a design that sort of pays homage.
I'll put the mannerisms in.
Yeah, but it's still its own entity. Slimer is that ghost. And became big in Ghostbusters 2 and the real Ghostbusters, where he became kind of a mascot for them.
Yeah.
In this film, he's strictly a villain. But yeah, that's what they do right with the visual effects, I think, in this. It's not too goofy. Because, again, in 2016, they crossed that line. Way too goofy.
Yeah, I agree. So that's a positive I can give the film. Ghostbusters for me has always been one of those films where if it's on, I'll watch it. Like if someone said to me, right, let's watch Ghostbusters, it's like, okay, fine. But it's not a film I remember fondly, if you know what I mean. And I'd never really seek it out for myself.
Sure.
Because I do find it amusing. I don't find it hilarious.
Okay.
I don't know why that is.
So I might try and offer something on that. So I really like Ghostbusters. I will seek it out and watch it every now and then. I think it's largely a very, very good film. There is a... People aren't going to like this, and this is actually kind of controversial against some of the reviews that you read, where they were like, the film is overall not great, but Bill Murray is fantastic. Bill Murray is kind of an odd duck in this for me, in that he is kind of both as good as they say, and kind of also one of the worst things in it simultaneously. Yeah. And the reason for that... So the script, let's start with this. The script, I think, is perfect. I think the script is really clever. It's really well written. What it manages to convey every piece of information, technical or not, in as few bits of dialogue as needed. It's really strong. You get every piece of information you need at the times you need it, and the story builds well. You know, the story at the start is very different to the story at the end. It builds into a huge climax, and one I think that actually works. So script-wise, the dialogue and the wit is very clever. There's also a lot of improvising going on. A lot of that is fantastic as well. So the scene where, at the beginning, where Bill Murray says to Harold Ramis, he says to him, do you remember that time you tried to bore a hole in your head? Harold Ramis' response, that would have worked if you hadn't stopped me. That was an ad-lib. But it's an ad-lib that works and actually adds to the joke and adds to the scene. So there's a lot of that going on really, really well. The issue with Bill Murray's character, and I'm not sure if it's his fault or if it's a directional problem, the issue I have with Bill Murray's character is that it feels slightly inconsistent. He is the comic relief guy. He has, a lot of the quips come from him, as stated in the reviews, and a lot, like, when it's dry humour, he smashes it out the park for me. But there's bits where he's kind of... Certainly early on, when he first meets Dana, goes back to her flat, and he's being all flirty and coy. He doesn't have that sort of charisma for me, so I can't see why she would be attracted to him. He's not the right guy for that kind of flirtation, which makes me think that that was meant to be a story arc for what was the Eddie Murphy character.
Yes, because according to the production notes that we read, the Winston, which is the character that ultimately was played by Ernie Hudson, was originally a much, much bigger role.
Yeah.
And then, literally, apparently, I don't know how true this is just what we read, the night before filming was due to start, they were given a new script that greatly reduced Winston's role.
Yeah, and boosted Bill Murray's.
And boosted Bill Murray's.
And the reason I think that this might have been more an Eddie Murphy scene than a Bill Murray scene initially is the script. The way, what it's asking from Bill Murray in this. If you just reimagine the scene but flip it with Eddie Murphy, the scene works better.
Right.
Because he's still a bit weird where it's just like, oh, what's in the bedroom? Well, nothing happened in there. What a shame. And all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of, with Eddie Murphy, he's got this kind of
disarming
charismatic
charm.
Sexiness and, disarming charm.
It feels a little bit...
it feels a bit stalkerish.
With Bill Murray. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it works better later, but they're already half established at that point. Yeah. But the establishment of that relationship doesn't work. So... that's what I kind of feel like watching it now with that knowledge. I kind of see certain things.
He's best when he's doing the deadpan sarcastic stuff, I think.
Yeah, I think he's great for
when
that.
When it's just the little comments, when Aykroyd and Ramis are going off about, ghosts and goblins and all that, and he'll just make a little offhand comment.
Yeah.
I think that's when Bill Murray is most effective in the film.
Yes, very much so. Because it's playing to his strengths.
Yes.
It's very clear that the Venkman character is kind of, even if it wasn't initially, by the time that they got to the shooting script, it was written very much around and for him.
Yes. I think he probably has the most screen time of all of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, he's the one who leads. He brings a lot of the problems when he pisses off the environmental guy, but he also brings a lot of the actual narrative because of his connection to Dana, etc.
Yeah.
There's certain parts where certainly Ray and Winston kind of get relegated to being off screen when they find the gatekeeper and the keymaster.
Yeah.
Ray and Winston are basically just out doing jobs, and they have one little scene on a bridge.
Egon deals with
Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis. I'm trying to remember his character's name.
Louis Tully.
Louis Tully. And Venkman is obviously dealing with Dana, which obviously is where you get the very famous line, "There is no Dana, there is only Zool," which is one of two very famous, I say three very famous lines in this film, because obviously who you're going to call's the other one.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's the Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes. Which I was pleased to see Ernie Hudson got that line, because my memory of that was Bill Murray had that line. So.
Yeah, that's my Murray. That's my memory as well.
My Murray memory.
My Murray memory.
I'm going to skip ahead slightly here a minute.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Because a lot of that critic opinion that we read at the start of the episode was people saying that the ending goes out of control.
Yeah.
The ending's the best part of the film.
I love the ending. I think it works really well.
Yeah, everything from where the Dana and Lewis turn into the dog statues.
Yep.
And Gozer the Garzarian comes. I always get confused whether that is Gozer or Zool, but I guess Zool is...
No, Zool was the one
dog
that possesses Dana.
Yeah.
Because you had Zool for that, and then it was Vince, for some reason, was the one that possesses Lewis.
Right.
I always found that confused. I was like, this is Zool, and this is Vince.
Yeah. Now, my biggest memory of Ghostbusters from when I was a kid is of Gozer the Garzarian.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a really cool and unexpected, yet quintessentially 80s design.
Yes,
on
very.
Gozer. The blood red contact lenses are cool as shit. The weird androgynous haircut.
Oh, it's almost got a David Bowie-esque quality to it.
I think I read somewhere they modelled Gozer on David Bowie.
Would not surprise
I might
me.
be making that up, but I feel like I read somewhere that David Bowie was part of the inspiration for Gozer. And then after they deal with Gozer the Garzarian, Gozer's all like, choose the form of the destroyer. This is one of the legit funniest bits for me.
Because it's so human.
Yeah, when Bill Murray's like, right, everyone clear your mind, don't think about anything. And then you start hearing the thudding, and they're like, what the hell is that?
Oh, no, it goes, it has been chosen.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we didn't choose anything.
And
he goes, I didn't choose anything.
Did you? And you kind of see Aykroyd's face being like, oh, shit. And I love the way the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is introduced.
Yeah. Where
you're glimpsing him between the buildings as he moves. And they're like, what did you do? And he's like, I couldn't help it. It just popped in. What did? The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
It's basically a large Pillsbury Doughboy.
So yeah, I personally disagree. I actually really like the ending of the film. I think it's probably the best part of the film for me.
Right.
Not to take anything away from the rest of the film.
Yeah, sure.
But
you're allowed to have favourite bits.
Being a horror fan, I'm a big fan of the more horrific sequences. So Gozer, when Dana is attacked in her apartment when she gets taken. Yep. And all of the demon arms come out of her chair and grab her. Yeah. I love the way that it's such a silly thing, but her chair carries her into the lit corridor, doesn't it?
It carries her into her kitchen, but her kitchen is flooded with light.
Yeah, and she goes instead of just floating, because nowadays they'd CGI that.
Yeah.
And she'd just float over the rug. The fact you actually see the rug folding up in front of the chair makes it feel so much more real.
Yeah, because it's actually interacting with the environment.
Yeah, and I could just imagine, I don't fully know how they did it, because I've not watched behind the scenes, but I can just picture in my head the sort of contraption they would have built on set.
It'd probably be a track underneath the floor
to
with
make
a
it
single
work.
arm that pulls it, yeah. But it's very clever. Again, for comparison's sake, for quite a few of these, like they cook the eggs, don't they, on her table?
Yeah.
And what they did was actually, tricked it so that the table underneath it had a cooker, which cooked the top, so the eggs literally fried on the surface. So that's, a legit thing that's actually happening. In the newest one, not including the new release for 2024, but in Ghostbusters Afterlife, they do a very similar thing with the Stay Puft the mini Stay Puft Marshmallow Men in the packet. But where it's all CGI and they don't actually do much interacting with anything else, the effect is lost.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
And even if the CGI is pretty damn good on Afterlife, but it's the lack of environmental interaction.
Yeah.
That changes whether or not even very good CGI comes across as convincing, or if it just feels like you've slapped an element on top of your cinema film.
Yeah.
And this film obviously doesn't do any real CGI. There's a couple of bits where they've, with the ghosts, where they've obviously had to overlay stuff in optical visual effects.
I think
but most of it is done practically.
I think there's one bit of CGI, or actually I don't know if it counts as CGI because I suspect it was hand-drawn, which is when the demon dog comes to crash Rick Moranis' party.
I think that's all. I think that's all stop motion.
Right, because there's one bit. It's only one bit. It's a brief bit where it lands on the table, and it really looks animated instead of
it's definitely
stop motion.
Yeah, that looks very slapped on. I'm fairly certain that's still stop motion though.
Right, it just doesn't look good for some reason.
Yeah, I think that's one where they failed the effect because the dog is quite dark and looks like it's in a darkly lit area, but the actual shot it's being placed in is very bright.
Yes.
The interaction with the table would be fine, but the table doesn't seem to break in accordance to where the dog's limbs are.
Right.
So it kind of just crushes in the middle, which would be fine if the dog was landing on it upside down, but it lands on it front first with its legs hitting the table as well. So I think we could classify that as a failed effect quite easily. But I mean, it you know what? It's a split-second effect versus the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I know this probably makes me unpopular, but I'm not a big fan of the Rick Moranis character in this film. He's just such... And I know this is what they were going for, so like I said, this is purely a me problem.
Yeah.
He's just such a wet lettuce. Like, even at the end, like, he gets no justification at all. Like, even at the end, he doesn't get to celebrate with everyone else.
No, he gets taken away as a victim,
gets taken away, and I was like, fuck me.
Yeah, but that's
this
funny.
man cannot get a break.
He does have more to do in the second one.
I suppose his break is he got to, technically he got to bang Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, and live.
Does he remember any of that? Because he's possessed at the time.
Well, he asks, he goes, did we? And she goes, no, Lewis. But I think they did, and she just...
Well, no, they definitely did. Like, that's the ritual.
But what I think is...
Gatekeeper and Keymaster.
Yeah, he gets a lot more in the second one, where he becomes a Ghostbuster temporarily.
The second one's so bad.
The second one had a lot of promise, but, squanders a lot of it. That's
Mother to Me.
That was a little bit... I think the problem is it kind of removes the element of fun a little bit when you're attacking a baby.
Yeah. I think your other problem is, just from what little I know, is Bill Murray really, really didn't want to do Ghostbusters 2.
He doesn't do sequels, does he, really?
And they basically, bribed him into doing it by agreeing to fund his passion project, I think.
Yeah, I think that was it.
And I think you can feel through the film
that he doesn't care.
That he doesn't really want to be there, and it's a bit like, fuck this shit.
But I think that's
some
awful.
Professionalism on his part.
Yeah, very much so. Though there are parts of the second one that I really like. I know this isn't technically what we should be discussing.
No, go ahead.
But again, Winston smashes it out the park in both films.
Has he got a bigger part in the second one? I don't remember.
Yeah, he's basically... Well, because he's already established, he's kind of involved straight away. Yeah. The thing that pisses me off a bit is when they do the court case, he's not involved in that. It's just the three. And I'm like, you don't need to leave Winston out now. Winston is established.
Yeah, I tell you what I didn't notice until
but
just
I like
now.
the bit where they go underground into the sewer, and they've got him on a rope, and he's gone down in the sewer, and there's all the pink goo. And then there's the ghost train that comes out. He's like, you gotta pull me up, pull me the hell up. And they don't. And then the ghost train just goes right through him, doesn't hurt him.
I didn't notice until tonight when we've just done the research for this episode. He's not featured on the poster for this film.
No,
The poster's just those three.
Yeah, I had this on DVD a while ago, and I think on the Blu-ray, I'm not sure if it's the same on the Blu-ray, but I remember the DVD pissed me off, because on the back it wins up, the three Ghostbusters and Winston, and I was like, fuck you.
Yeah, Winston is a Ghostbuster.
Yeah, but they, honestly, on the back of packaging for Ghostbusters, they will still say the three Ghostbusters and Winston, and you're like, no, fuck off, the four Ghostbusters. I ain't having it.
Yeah, there's four. I've always said there's four Ghostbusters.
I've always said there's four. But there seems to be... I don't know why. I don't know if it was contractual, or if it's ego, or if it's just racism, maybe, from like people who developed the packaging, or the studio. I don't know what it is, but it's just weird when it's like, there's three Ghostbusters and Winston. You're like, no, fuck you, there's four.
I'm not saying that it was intentional, but I am saying that it is not a good look that the one black member of your cast is constantly the one being minimized. He has in this film, Ghostbusters 1, he has the least screen time of any Ghostbuster.
Yep.
He doesn't come into the film till about
halfway through.
End of the first act, I'd say.
Easily end of the first act, maybe a little way into the second.
Yeah. And as you say, on the DVD, it's like, three Ghostbusters plus Winston.
Yeah, and you're like, fuck you.
Yeah, I'm not saying they did it intentionally. I might be reading too much into it. I'm just saying it's in this day and age, and again, this wasn't made in this day and age, but it's not a good look.
I remember that used to piss me off when I was a kid, though.
Yeah.
Because they never did that on, like, the real Ghostbusters. Winston was definitely a member of the team.
Right.
It's just something specific to the films. Which makes me wonder, because obviously the original actors didn't have anything really to do with the real Ghostbusters. Their voices were provided by voice actors. I'm wondering if there's contractual ego-related reasons.
Probably. I mean...
I know it may not be, and this may be unfair to the other three main actors, but I'm just trying to think why it would only apply to the first two films.
Based on what we read, and this only explains it for the first film, but based on what I've read, part of me does think there might be some weight to that, in the sense that it sounds like the studio were very heavily banking on getting Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And it seems too much of a coincidence that when they didn't get Eddie Murphy, all of a sudden, the script gets changed.
Yeah.
To minimise that character.
Yeah.
That feels like a real, too much of a coincidence,
Yeah.
to just be a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not necessarily saying racism, but I'm saying that sort of Hollywood thing where they're like, well, you're not as big a name as Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have. I doubt they would have minimised it.
Because without Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray's your biggest name in it.
Yeah.
At this time.
Yeah.
And arguably still, because as much as I like Aykroyd and Ramis, they never really got to Bill Murray's level, I don't think.
Aykroyd probably got closest.
Ramis more as a director than an actor.
Yeah. Ramis got more fame as a director, usually of Bill Murray films.
Well, until they fell out, didn't they?
Yeah.
On Groundhog Day, I believe.
Yeah, it was Groundhog Day.
Didn't speak to each other for a long time. I think they made up just before Harold Ramis died.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is good. I'm glad they made up. Nothing worse than never being able to get closure, is there?
Yeah, of course. But Dan Aykroyd, the problem with Dan Aykroyd is during the early 80s, he did a lot of really good work, including Blues Brothers, stuff that was really kind of out the box and really clever. And then it just kind of, I don't know what happened to it. He just ended up becoming cameos.
Yeah. At some point, he started cameoing in every comedy film ever.
Yeah.
He's a cameo in every Adam Sandler film post the late 90s. He's a cameo in Evolution, actually. Yeah. Funnily enough, he's the state senator.
But it surprises me as well because, outside of anything else, he is also a writer.
Now, to be fair,
he could write his own parts, to a certain level.
I think I know what it is with Aykroyd, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's based on, I actually listened to an interview with Dan Aykroyd, not about his film career.
Right.
A few years ago, he was interviewed on Last Podcast on the Left, which is a podcast that deals with a lot of supernatural stuff.
Right.
As you know, Ghostbusters was Aykroyd's idea based on his interest in the supernatural.
Yeah.
I believe from that interview, basically it wasn't that people stopped offering him parts, it was that he's more interested in trying to be a real-life paranormal investigator.
And sell vodka.
And sell his Crystal Skull vodka. And basically, I think he just does cameos now to fund the ghost hunting.
Yeah, I think that's where it is. Because, I mean, he started off with, like, so SNL he had a lot of appearances in. As a writer, he did The Blues Brothers, which was great, a fantastic film. He did The Coneheads, which was a short, and then he later in the 90s starred and wrote the Coneheads movie. Ghostbusters in 1984 he did. He also is credited for The Best of John Belushi, but I'm assuming that's just because he wrote the sketches. He did the story and the screenplay for Spies Like Us in 85.
Yeah.
He did... Let me just find... Dragnet in 87 he wrote.
Wow.
Ghostbusters 2, 89. He did the screenplay for a film called Nothing But Trouble.
Nothing But Trouble, yeah.
91.
I've never seen Nothing But Trouble, but they reference it constantly on last podcast on the left.
Interesting.
So I'm guessing it must have some sort of cult status to it.
Maybe. Coneheads in 93. And then after that, it just becomes remakes. So, like, he's credited for character work in, like, multiple Ghostbusters spin-offs. He did Blues Brothers 2000 in 98, which, honestly, I love the first Blues Brothers. Blues Brothers 2000 is garbage.
Isn't the other one's dead by that point?
Yeah. So he
What do they do? Recast or
no? So they play that he is dead. They don't bring in James Belushi, which would be the obvious way to have a story. So it's just about.
Isn't the obvious option? Don't make the movie.
I would honestly, it's John Goodman becomes the John Belushi part.
Man, that's such a shame as well, though, because John Goodman's such a good actor.
He is a good actor.
And if that had been an original part, like say the first Blues Brothers didn't exist.
Yeah.
And the first Blues Brothers was Aykroyd and Goodman.
Yep.
That'd probably be great. It'd be fine.
Yep.
But everyone's got Belushi in their head.
Yeah. There's also. Who's bringing? Where is it? That's it. So Joe Morton comes in as well as one of them. So Joe Morton, do you recognise the name?
I do.
He was in Terminator 2. He's Miles Dyson.
Yes, that's
in that. So he comes in, and then I don't know which one of these it is, but they bring a child in as well. So it's one of those where it's like, now there's a child who does blues, and you're like,
no.
Yeah.
No.
And then that's it. Everything else is basically creditations for Ghostbusters.
Or cameos in Sandler films.
I mean, this is writing
I'm
talking about. But so he used, basically, most of his biggest works, he wrote his own check pretty much by writing the script and performing in it. But after about the mid-90s, he just stopped doing it. Yeah. I'm guessing because he was interested in other things. And most of the stuff he did, like he did a revamp of Blues Brothers 2098. After that, everything's just Ghostbusters, basically. Almost all of those are credits as having invented the original character.
What else do I want to talk about in this movie? What are some problems I have with it? Like I said, there's nothing I can point to in this film and be like, hated that. Because there's nothing in it I hated.
No.
Like I said, I like this film. Please put down your pitchforks. I just don't love the film.
Okay.
I don't quite understand why it's as big as it is.
Is it a little too silly for your taste?
No. No, I think it'd be disingenuous for me to say this is too silly when I like Army of Darkness.
That's true.
Army of Darkness is better, though, in my opinion.
Really? I prefer this, but that's fair enough.
But Army of Darkness is one of my top 10 favourite movies of all time. So
that's fair enough. That's just an opinion thing. That's all good.
It's a little too safe, I think, for me.
Oh, okay.
Because, like I said, I find it amusing, not hilarious. So while we were watching this, you were literally laughing at it. And the most it ever got from me was like a...
Yeah.
Like a little smile and a,
Right.
It just isn't that funny to me. It's the best Ghostbusters film, though.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen 2016. Maybe it's a hidden masterpiece.
No. Trust me, it is not.
I doubt it.
Honestly,
because imagine if we did 2016 and I came away and was like, this is the best movie I've ever seen.
You'd be the only one, Jamie. Honestly, the biggest sin with 2016 is it's not as bad as people were saying, but it's not good at all.
Yeah.
And it's so mediocre, it's not even so bad it's funny, it's just, I can't
It's
be
like,
bothered.
why does this exist if you're just going to be this dull?
Yeah, it's so boring. And I'm just like, it is the worst type of bad. Like, I would have had more praise for the film in a way if it was god awful.
Yeah.
And it would be like, you could sit there laughing at it going, how the fuck did they do this? This is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. Can't. It's just boring.
Yeah. Okay, let's wrap up with some positives. Let's see if there's any standout scenes. So I've already said...
You like the ending?
I like the ending. I love Ghost of the Garzarian. Yep. The look's very cool. It's very striking, very memorable. I quite like the library scene at the beginning as well.
The library scene's good.
It's very cool that like the floating books were actually just on pieces of fish wire that were on a winch and they were just wheeling them. And they come and they're like, oh, it's not like humans have ever stacked books like that.
Yeah.
I guess I like the scene where they go after Slimer, but I also don't because I actually, again, not to incite rage, Slimer's shit.
Yeah?
I've always thought that ever since even when they turn him good in the show.
Yeah.
He's just shit ghost.
Well, there's not much to him past the joke of lol eats lots.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a character trait. Like but it's not one that's interesting enough to follow.
Yeah. It is cool though that they when he is stuffing his face, I like that everything's just falling out the bottom of him because he's a ghost.
Again, very good trick work with, obviously Slimer isn't really there. They're having to superimpose and trick things to make it look like things are levitating. The ones... what's weird for me in this film? I kind of really like the second act.
Yeah.
I don't know why. There's something about... Before we get to the finale's great as well. I kind of like every act in this film, actually. But there's something about the second act which is just kind of... easily cool. They're on their rise up. They're getting a lot of work. It feels like they're sort of making progress as a business.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff where they're, repairing stuff and building shit and, improving on the brand that they've developed. It's kind of when the Ghostbusters are really in full swing. They kind of get knocked down a peg at the end of Act 2, and Act 3 is their rise again from having been basically arrested. But yeah, prior to the arrest stuff, there's just some really nice... there's just a really comfortable vibe to this, this business keep going.
It's a little
and
weird,
I like
though.
Sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, I really like the scene where Ray and Winston are in the Ecto-1 driving, like... the ones, when I said they weren't involved in the Keymaster Gatekeeper part.
Yeah.
So it's the one bit they're in, which is basically where they are when that's going on.
Yeah.
I like that scene. There's something really kind of easygoing and chill about it. And while I'm not religious in any particular way, shape, or form, I kind of like the kind of chill factor of Winston just going, I love that Jesus guy. And it's just like, it's just... It's not forcing any beliefs anywhere. It's just the fact that he's so chill with everything. And to be fair, it's kind of a necessary scene because it also comes to that's them coming to the realization that this could be an end of the world scenario, as told in the Bible. And bear in mind that this is a ghost thing based on a lot of biblical Sumerian and sort of ancient texts. So, yeah, I really like that scene. Yeah. It's just something really... and then they go, oh, let's just play some music and keep driving. And you get a shot of them going over, I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge or something, and, like, this really cool music, very 80s music playing in the background. There's just something really cool and easygoing about it that I really respect.
Little weird, though, just something that struck me this time on viewing it. You get that montage in the second act where, like you say, it's the Ghostbusters on the rise. They're getting more and more cases. There's all these news headlines coming up. And the amount of headlines that come up and the amount of things we see implies that months go by of them building up this business.
Yeah.
And then it's a bit like, when they go back to the Dana storyline with Sigourney Weaver, you're a bit like, okay, like, I don't believe that you've waited around this long. Like, either
it's taken them 5 months to find out about Zool.
Either A, you'd have fucked off somewhere else, or B, Zool would have taken you by now.
Yeah, that is... I will admit, that is something that's a bit jarring, because also...
It doesn't ruin the film or anything.
No. But it is a bit jarring, because the way that happens as well is she's kind of... She's kept in the montage just because she's listening to the reports of them on their rise, but
Yeah.
there's nothing actually happening to her or with her story arc at this point. And then when she next actually has a scene, it's with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Him turning up outside of her, well, where she's rehearsing for playing with the orchestra. And he's just like, "Hey, I've been waiting around for you," blah blah blah. And so this doesn't feel like several months have gone by.
Yeah. It feels like the next day.
Yeah, it's like the next day. Hey, so I've been looking up about Zool, and you're like, "But what?"
There is no Dana. There is only Zool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that might be all we've got to say about
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I haven't got much more to say. I really like this film. I would recommend it to people. I think it's incredibly fun, and I can see why people would use it as like a child's first step into maybe watching horrors. Like horrors that aren't going to terrify the children, but will make them... And also, gadget stuff, man. Fucking love the gadgets. I'm a nerd. I've got loads of stuff from...
Inspector Gadget.
Well, you know, I've got loads of old tech.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I've got
boy,
more
don't
now, but I haven't
know
got
it.
anywhere to put it yet. I've got 2 record players now, Jamie. They're very different looking.
That's the original 1984 Ghostbusters. We have given it a second take. Rory really likes it.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't hate it. It's not one of my favourite films, but it does what it does well. You'd have a good time with it. And it's definitely, if you've got like a young person in your life and you're looking to slowly ease them into watching the horror genre, it's a great place to start. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us talk about Ghostbusters. You can catch up with more Second Take Cinema episodes, releasing every Tuesday and Thursday on all good podcasting apps, including, but not limited to, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Amazon, Spotify, Castbox, etc. You can also check out our other movie review podcast, VGMP, the Video Game Movie Podcast, where we review movies that are based on video games or tangentially related to video games. And that tends to be a bit of a more comedic-aimed, comedic-focused show, because, let's be honest, you need something to keep those movies entertaining, most of them. You can also check out our audio drama franchise, Haunted the Audio Drama, available on all good podcasting apps. Search Haunted the Audio Drama or Impala Films. If you would like to send us any messages or feedback or anything like that relating to your opinions on some of the films that we've spoken about on Second Take Cinema, please do feel free to email us at info.impalafilms@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to read your feedback and respond on air, as they say. And with that having been said, until next time, it's time to sign off, Rory.